Hi, welcome to the podcast Beyond the Ballot, a Lone Wolf production. This is where we showcase local politics and talk about hot community issues. Today's episode, we have the pleasure of having Robert Kearns here, Town Councilman of Carmel. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, you have recently announced your run for Town Supervisor of Carmel. Before we get into your initiatives as current Town Councilman of Carmel, I want the listeners to hear a little bit about your personal background. How long have you lived in Mahopac?
Oh, good question. So I moved here to Mahopac right before COVID. So I've been here about 6 years. I moved here after I got out of the United States Navy. My wife and I were looking for a community where we can, put our roots down, raise our family, grow old, and have that sense of small town feel. And Mahopac, we drove through town and we got lucky. The day we drove through town happened to be the same day as the Chamber of Commerce street fair. And we drove through and we were like, oh my goodness, this is like a Hallmark movie. There was foam everywhere. So we instantly knew like this is where we wanted to raise our family. So we were discussing before we started, we were really looking in the Somers, Mahopac area, and Mahopac and Carmel really just spoke to us.
Right, stole your hearts.
It stole our heart, and my wife had a connection to Mahopac through Relay for Life. My mother-in-law is a 2-time breast cancer survivor. My mother has also had breast cancer twice, and my wife would come up here from the Bronx every year with her family, camp out at Mahopac High School, and participate in the Relay for Life all the way from the first ever event. So that's why her and I both serve on the board now. We're active volunteers within the Relay for Life. They're a great committee. They do great work. Kate Corsito, Steve Tanalos, and that whole crew over there just knock it out of the park each year. And really their mission is really, all of us have somebody who has experienced cancer, right? You've been affected by cancer. And, it's not about politics. It's not about creed or religion. It's just doing what we can to give back to those who are suffering and to make sure that they have some hope. So it's probably one of my favorite organizations. I know I can't really say that, but their mission is just truly genuine. And, it's been something that's directly impacted my family. So That's how I ended up in Mahopac.
And their event is usually in June?
June, yeah. First weekend in June. This Saturday, actually, they're having January 10th. They're having their first lap to kind of kick off the start of Relay. They have teams. You guys should put a team together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really a fun family day. Last year we had vendors there. We had food trucks. They have events going on for the kids all day. It's
January 10th.
Oh no, January 10th is just the first lap.
Oh, okay.
The day of the event in June is when they have all those things to participate with, and they have various events throughout the year, and their goal is really just to fundraise. I believe last year they raised $160,000, which is remarkable, right? And that all goes to help the fight against cancer.
Wow. So I know I have a script here, but I want to ask you, since you've been here, you said 6 years now.
6 years, yeah.
Would you have Would you have imagined that you'd be where you are right now as town councilman and running for town supervisor? Like, was that ever on your radar?
No, I mean, it's funny you say that. No, it wasn't. So I was always very interested in politics, more so national politics. I think like everybody else, you're always watching everything that happens at the federal level. When I was in the Navy, a lot of those policies directly impact my life. At that time, I didn't own a home, so I didn't really pay attention to local politics as much as I should, because one, I was living in Virginia Beach and I was deployed a lot. I was going out to sea, and I just never really thought about it. And then when I moved here, and again at the time I only had my one son. I was young. I was 25 years old, 26 years old. I'm sorry. I had bought a house, and I started quickly realizing how important local politics really is in regards to owning just basic necessities like owning a home, and how local laws can really affect your life. So I always knew I wanted to eventually get into politics. To be honest with you, I did not anticipate jumping in when I jumped in. When I originally had started, I had applied. I wanted to get on the planning board. So when I first moved to Mahopac and Carmel, I'm not someone who likes to sit around. I don't just sit around and do nothing. My wife is actually happy because I'm usually running out the door because I'm always raising my hand to volunteer for everything. So when I moved here, I just got done renovating my house, and I was looking for something to do. And I saw on I think it was like Mayapack Moms, I saw a Facebook post looking for football coaches for MSA needed football coaches. At the time, my son was 2 years old, so my kid wasn't old enough to play. So I had reached out to a gentleman named Rich Tardio. He is the director of MSA football. And I explained to him, I played football, I played quarterback, I'd be interested in helping coach. He's like, all right. I said, I'd like to be like an offensive coordinator or something. I got a call within like 4 hours and said, oh, congratulations, you're the head coach of the youth football team. I said, okay. So I had to break that to my wife, and she accepted it and supported me. But I got involved right away coaching football. Then I joined the VFW. I joined there, and I started getting more involved and kind of watching how everything was unfolding around town. And I think you guys, I'm not afraid to speak my mind. Sometimes it gets me in trouble, but I've always been pretty blunt and honest with where I stand. And I saw things that I really couldn't get on board with. And
do you remember any of those topics?
Yeah, well, the project's not getting finished. My background is project management. I work in construction. I'm a project executive. I oversee a large team of project managers and superintendents. We do large scale projects ranging from up to upwards of $50 million. And I saw just constantly nothing getting done, and everything was always being promised, but nothing was ever getting delivered. So at the time, there was an opening on the planning board, the town's planning board. And I had applied. I submitted a resume, letter of intent. Never heard anything back. Crickets. I sent follow-up emails. And I understand, I'm not naive in life. There's always going to be someone bigger, better, and more qualified. But again, no one just didn't respond to my email. I didn't even get an interview. So I had reached out I had bumped into someone and who was on the board at the time, and I asked them, I introduced myself to them, and they said, oh yeah, I remember you weren't qualified enough. So I said, okay. And then that's when I decided, I was like, you know what, I'm going to run for town board. And that's when I threw my name in the ring.
And I kind of read, were you like one of the youngest people to be elected on the town board of Carmel?
From my understanding, I am the youngest ever elected to the town board.
31 years old, right?
Yes,
okay.
Correct. And if I was elected to town supervisor, I would be the youngest ever elected to the town.
So you're trying to break all types of records right
to me, to be honest with you, I really don't care about the records. I know it's hard to believe, and some of my friends might laugh at that, but I really don't care about records. I just care about getting things done. And, and that's quite honestly why I'm so passionate about doing this, because I'm raising my family here.
I was going to say you're heavily invested with your children.
Heavily invested.
And you have how many children?
3.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 2 boys and a girl.
How about any mentors or role models in your life that have made a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest role models I think I have is my mom. And we were talking before we aired. My mom had a really, really rough life. She was dealt a pretty crappy hand. She suffered a very traumatic injury when I was a very young kid, which left her paralyzed. And she had an uphill battle pretty much my entire life. She was bound to a wheelchair. She had cancer 3 times. I used to call her the Terminator because I feel like life just threw everything they could at her, and she just, it didn't deter her from moving forward. She always did everything she could, even from her wheelchair, to make sure that me and my siblings had everything anything we needed. And it's just, she was just, I try to be like her, it could always be worse than what you're currently going through. And sometimes, you forget that when you're in the thick of things. And I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes I let petty things get me worked up. And at the end of the day, there's a bigger mission that we all have here. And, sometimes you just got to learn how to kind of suck it up and move forward, because it could be way worse. So she for sure was my role model. So I would like to be like her. And a mentor of mine is my wife's grandfather. He is the definition of a hardworking man. The guy worked 2 jobs to provide for his family. He showed up when he could for his family. So he's definitely a mentor of mine that I like to bounce ideas off of and just be more like him.
And lastly, what is something people might not know about you and might find interesting?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Any talents? Do you sing? Do you play an instrument?
I don't sing. Recently, though, I was away on vacation with my family, my siblings. We go away every year, the weekend after Christmas. And I never, ever, ever did karaoke. Mm-hmm. And I think I crushed it. Everyone else did not think so, but I kept signing up to sing. And everyone
What song did you sing?
A little bit of Taylor Swift was in the playlist.
I did not see that coming.
Justin Bieber was in the playlist. Whitney Houston, Creed. It was terrible though, so you don't want to hear it.
But you're an avid outdoorsman, correct?
Yeah, I'm a really really big outdoorsman. I do a lot of hunting, fishing, recreational shooting, archery, rifle. Big Second Amendment supporter. I love being out in the woods. My son, I have my older son. He's 7. He already is a marksman. He goes out in the woods with me. He hunts. He fishes. For his birthday, his 7th birthday, we went down to the Everglades last June, and he ended up getting himself a 8-foot alligator and a 450-pound wild boar. So
did you guys grill up the alligator?
Yeah, we ate it. He ate it. That's the rule that we have in the house, is that we don't shoot anything unless you're going to eat it.
Wow.
So he's a trooper. When I saw you guys last at the Carmel town swearing-in ceremony, mm-hmm. I actually took him out later that day. It was like 12 degrees. And he lasted 2 hours. I was proud of him. Then his toes get cold, and then we leave.
That's dedication, though, especially at that age.
Yeah. He's into it. He likes it a lot. But yeah, that's
awesome, though.
Yeah, he likes to be out there. We like to camp. We camp out in the backyard. So I grew up in the Adirondacks, so I'm an outdoorsman.
So can you tell us about? You kind of touched on your professional experience. Yeah. What has specifically prepared you for the role that you have currently as town councilman?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I've had a very unique background where right now I work in the construction industry as an executive project manager. I oversee pretty much all the projects that my company takes on. We specialize in municipal bid projects, public bid. So everything that we do is pretty much similar to what the town of Carmel does. Is we have a project, we put it out to bid, and then the lowest bidder gets it, and then the project starts. And my job is to, I don't estimate, but what my job is when that project is awarded, my job is to get that job off paper, started, and then completed on time within budget, or make it come in under budget. So since the beginning of my time on the town board, I've taken that and ran with it.
How big is the budget for the town of Carmel that you have to manage?
Well, it's not just me personally.
Right, the board though. Like how?
Yeah, the townwide, without the special districts, we're about $40 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just thinking down the road. If you were to win the election, become town supervisor, your current position is full-time.
Correct.
This is a full-time position.
Correct.
What do you plan on? What's the move with that?
So
what do you plan on doing?
So I've spoken with my employer. He understands my passion is this. I want to run for the town. I would give up my position in the private sector to run the town of Carmel. I personally believe that if you're in that seat, you're the CEO essentially of the town. You should be the first person in the building and the last person every single day. And quite frankly, that's really what fueled my desire to run, because I felt like that we weren't currently getting that at the moment. So yeah, I would give up my spot in the private sector to do this. Okay. To me, it's more valuable that, again, like we touched on it earlier. I'm heavily invested in this community. My kids just began their journey here. Myself, really, other than myself and Councilman Lugo, We are here we're going to be here for a while. There's nothing really stopping us from picking up and moving tomorrow. Others don't really have that same luxury. They can move next year if they wanted to. Their kids are grown. They're out of the community. We're here. So the decisions that we're making right now while we're on that board directly impact myself, my kids, your kids. We're going to feel those decisions for a long time. So that's why it's so important that I got involved, and I feel like I just can't sit on the sideline anymore and kind of be complacent.
Michael Kazari, who's the current town supervisor, just won his third term. Unfortunately, because of Hochul, she's changed the election year to be even years for certain local offices in New York City. So he has not, he doesn't have much of a break. So now he's going to be running again, primarying you, I'm assuming. And you've collaborated with him and you continue to collaborate with him. Why do you feel like you'd be a better fit as town supervisor than Michael Kazari?
Yes, that's a great question. It's a heavy question.
I know. It's friendly fire.
Yeah, it is friendly fire. So, I'm going to go off and say, you'll never hear me say a single bad thing about Mike. I truly do think Mike Kazari is a great guy. He's volunteered years of his life to service to this community as a chief of police. He got on the board, and I work with Mike on a regular basis for the last 2 years. There's no doubt that he loves his town. I personally feel like his heart isn't in it anymore. I show up to everything. I'm a part-time elected official when I feel like I'm doing more than the guy that's supposed to be there full time. I have a problem with that. So I feel like I have a skill set that directly aligns for someone who's going to be in that office. The town supervisor is a daily manager. They're supposed to be there every single day managing the operations of our town, which directly is that's my background. I'm an operations project manager. The problem that we have in this town is that we start stuff and we don't finish it. Mm-hmm. The master plan, the Swan Cove, the rec center, Water 2, the list can go on and on.
Right,
and on.
Which we'll touch on.
Correct.
Briefly,
And again, in the beginning, I was a little naive. I was new, trying to get my feet wet, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's government. It's red. There's a bunch of red tape, and things move so slowly." And I will say that is definitely the case. I'm not saying that is not false, but you can only use that excuse for so long. And quite frankly, you need someone who's going to be able to pick the phone up, call your engineers, call whoever is responsible for that project, and say, "What the heck is going on? Why is this taking so long? What do we need to do? Where can we go from here, and how do we get it done?" And quite frankly, that is the job of a project manager. And I feel like I can deliver actual results. And I feel like I've already done that in my tenure on the town board. The second I got on the town, I did not waste any time. I immediately started getting things done. I started speaking up. I didn't have a period where I kind of just got there and I sat. You'll see a lot of times where people get on the board and they take the first year and they kind of just sit there and observe what's going on. I don't have that in me. Again, back to what I was saying earlier, I'm not afraid to speak my mind. And I'm sure we all are aware of what happened, but 4 months after I got elected, we had the battery, mm-hmm. The best systems situation happen. So that kind of, I feel like, threw me right into the fire. And I joke around. I said, I kind of feel like I grew up with the best. Like it made me kind of, it gave me experience beyond my years right away, because that's arguably one of the most controversial projects this town has ever seen. So I didn't get the opportunity to really sit there and kind of observe and take it all in. So I was able to go 0 to 60 very quick and kind of pick up on what was going on right away. So, and I'm happy it happened, because it kind of made me the person who I am now on that board.
Right. I have to ask another friendly fire question. Since you've announced your run for town supervisor, has there been tension between you and Mike Kazari?
I mean, I'm not gonna say it's been rainbows and roses. It's definitely, again, I understand where he's coming from. I understand I'd feel a certain type of way myself. So I'm not gonna say that his demeanor or his position is Yeah, I'll say
Overly,
yes.
overly friendly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say it's definitely noted that there is definitely going to be.
Yeah.
We're not going to be skipping
it's a little
through
contentious.
we're not going to be skipping through fields of lilies. But at the end of the day, I think that Mike is a professional. I'm a professional, and at the end of the day, we will campaign and we will go to the voters asking them for their support. And when we're out there campaigning, it's one thing, but on Wednesday when we're on the dais and in the back room, him and I both need to be mature enough to be able to put that to the side and do what's best for the community. I think that for those several hours that we're together on Wednesday nights, campaigns or anything shouldn't even be spoken about. It should be what's going on, what can we do, and how can we get things done. And we shouldn't even mention about our campaigns against one another. And quite frankly, I shouldn't be doing things up there that are going to hurt him, and vice versa. He shouldn't be up there trying to hurt me. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we're on a board. We need to work together, and who knows what's going to happen. Either
it's a whole year, right?
We're just getting started.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of your initiatives as town councilman. The first one that comes to mind is about Carmel Water District 2.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, that was something that I really took on. It was a very big initiative for me. When I first ran for town board, I'll never forget it. I had reached out to the committee asking to go. I introduced myself, asking to run, and no one knew who I was. Outside MSA football and the VFW, I didn't have name recognition. No one knew who I was, so they kind of dismissed me a little bit. And I kept being persistent, kept calling, and finally they let me come in front of the committee, and I gave my spiel what we're about to do next week of why they should support me and get the endorsement. I had zero. I knew I was not getting that endorsement. That room is full of people that have been friends for decades and know each other. And again, I was a kid that just came off the street. But I went in there. I voiced myself. I delivered my message and why I was running and what my initiatives were. And I got a warm response. And I did a little bit better than I thought I was. And I'll never forget. A gentleman asked me a question that night, and that's something that's always stuck to me. And and he was right. It was previous county legislator Greg Elner. He's a Carmel Hamlet guy, and he asked me. He said, all the things that you're talking about is great. Like I love what you want to do, but I've heard a lot of things about Mayapack, and there's no secret. Everybody on that board is Mayapack. At the time, Bob Shannell was the only one in Carmel, and that's who I was going to be running against was Bob Shannell. So he said, "What would you do for the town of Carmel?" And from that point on, it's always stuck in the back of my head is that I don't want my constituents in Carmel to ever feel that I'm playing favoritism to Mayapack. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, yes, I live in Mayapack, but my job as a town councilman is to serve
all the constituents.
Exactly, the entire population of the Hamlet and Mayapack. Right. And, I took that very, very sincere. So something that I do, I know we've talked about it, is I host a Connect with Kearns event. It's something that I am very proud of. My whole mission is accessibility. Like I feel that it is so important as a public servant that your constituents and your residents have the ability to contact you, even if it's something that you think is minuscule. To them, it could be life threatening. It could be the biggest thing that they have on their plate. And at the end of the day, our job is to be a vessel for them, to get them help. Right? We might not always have the answers, but we have resources that we can get them in touch with.
But you're accessible.
I'm always accessible. So I started these Connect with Kearns events, which usually are on Saturdays, and I alternate them. I go back and forth between Mayapack and Carmel. And when I started doing these, I had some individuals come to my Connect with Kearns event in the Hamlet, and they had brought up Carmel Water too. Mm-hmm. At the time, I didn't really know I didn't know the severity of the project. I knew we were going to be voted on Carmel Water 2 and the overhaul of Carmel Water 2, but I didn't really know the meat and potatoes. So they had came and they had expressed their concerns, and they kind of opened my eyes to the project, which again is the whole premise of the Connect with Kearns event, because everyone's got busy lives and you can't always make a meeting. I know they're on YouTube, but you can't. Sometimes people are taking care of their kids. They're at work. They're shopping with their families. They don't always get the opportunity to be able to come and address the town board. So I had met with them there, and then my background in construction, I kind of heard what this gentleman was saying. I was like, well, what he's saying doesn't make sense. Why would the town do this? So again,
what were they doing exactly?
So the whole premise is that they were trying to do it was called a DAF. It's a DAF plant, which is, the town had hired an engineering firm who is known to design giant luxury water filtration plants. They're pretty much.
Isn't that someone of Greg Elner's background as well?
So Greg Elner, So Greg Elner, I will say Greg Elner was instrumental. He did help me in. Because he is in the water industry. Yeah. He sells UV filters. I'd bounced ideas back and forth with him. At the time he was elected to serve, he lives in that water district as well. And he also was on the county legislature at the time for District 5. So he and I worked closely together on this as well. And I would pick ideas off him. He would call me and say, I heard this, blah, blah, blah. But pretty much what a DAF plant was, this firm that the town had hired before I even got on the town board. So this project started, I want to believe, before COVID. And it was one of those things, again, that got put on the shelf and not completed. And at the time when that happened, I wanted to say the project was estimated to be about $18 million. And again, COVID happened and inflation, and then we kind of used, the COVID as my biggest thing is I hate when people use the COVID as an excuse. Drives me crazy. Like even in my private job, when people still try to use COVID as an excuse, it drives me nuts because we're 5 years past COVID. Like there's no reason why we should still be blaming. I feel like people got conditioned to use it as a scapegoat when they just didn't have an answer to why something didn't get done. And I think we're all guilty of it. And I think that really drove me nuts. But as I digress, so the DAF plant was this company that the town had contracted to design. They do a lot of work for New York City. They design large scale water filtration plants. They're talking like the Taj Mahal of water plants. The District 2, Carmel Water 2 did not need a Taj Mahal water plant.
Was there a bid put out? Is that like how does that
happen? So it was, the bid was to design. So the company that got the bid, Hazen Sawyer, they designed it, and then the design that they had proposed. Which again, they did nothing wrong. Like they did everything that they were supposed to, but the town just approved to go with that DAF. So there was a vote we have 2 meetings a year in Carmel at the firehouse. And that night, at the time, we only had 4 board members. Mr. Baranowski had resigned from the board. And, that was something that I fought very hard against. At the time, they wanted to appoint somebody to the town board, and I did not agree with that. I think that the board should never have the right to decide who represents the people. I feel like the people should pick who they want to represent them. And it was just fresh off of everything that had happened with the highway superintendent race and the write-in campaign. And that was very clear that the people wanted a choice of who they want to serve them. So I fought, again, I was on the board for like 2 weeks. I fought to make that an election. So if someone would apply, Councilman Lugo was the only individual that stepped up and actually ran, knowing it was only a 1-year term. And that's how Mike got on the board. By the time we only had, I'm rambling, by the time we only had four board members. It was myself and Susie and Frank Lombardi and Supervisor Caseri. And it came time to bond for $28 million, which is a lot of money. And at the time, I still had questions that were not being answered by the firm, by the people that were going to be doing the work. And I knew in my head that because I build water plants, I build recreation centers, I do all these jobs. I know that there's cheaper alternative technologies, cheaper alternative options for the taxpayers. And they kept trying to tell me, no, they couldn't answer simple questions. So in my good heart could not vote yes to spend $28 million of taxpayer dollars on a project that I know that we can get for cheaper. And that night, I was the only no vote. I voted no, and the rest of the board voted yes. But because we didn't have a supermajority, because they only had 3 votes, the vote did not go through. It stopped that vote from that project from moving forward. And my response that night was, I still need to find out more of what's going on. I am not comfortable spending $28 million on this water plant.
Yeah.
The town of Carmel does not need the Taj Mahal. We need a Chevy, a Ford, something that is reliable, that these residents don't have to worry about making sure that they can make ends meet to pay this water bill.
Right.
And that couldn't happen. So I fought with them. And again, I was green. I was pretty relatively new, and they took that as an opportunity to kind of throw some shade at me, some dig at me.
An act of defiance.
Yeah, they threw some dig saying that I didn't know what I was doing, and that we were still gonna spend $28 million, and I'm just delaying the project. And I dug my heels in, and I said, no, I want to go out to bid to see if there's a cheaper alternative to technology, and that was met with resistance. For some reason, I don't know why, but it was just met with resistance, and I'll never forget it. We had there's a gentleman named Peter Gebhardt. He is I call him the heart and the beat of the hamlet. He was very passionate about Carmel water too. He and I and Greg Elner and a bunch of other individuals set up a meeting at the Carmel Firehouse, and we had about 75 people come to this meeting, and I flat out told them, I said, listen, they're not going to listen to me, and they're going to listen to you guys. And it was a very similar situation that happened with the batteries issue, because it was right after the battery issue. So I said, you need to come to the town board. There's public comment for a reason. And they came, and then voila, we were going out to bid to get a desktop audit. And, we ended up going with Delaware Engineering. And the results came back, they were eye staggering, and I knew it was going to happen.
And what was the price tag on that?
So right now, originally the plant was proposed to be $28 million.
Right.
Which, I don't even think that was the right number. I think I thought it was going to be closer to 45 million. So what I had done is I had foiled, and I had gone through the last 10 projects that this firm had built with this similar technology, and they're actually right in our backyard. They did a project over in Austin, and they did a project here in Mount Kissa, North Castle. And what I found was there was a common trend that the proposals were coming in about 50% under the final budget. So like Austin, I think, was upwards of $100 million, and we're supposed to be 60-something million. So it was very common. So I was like, there's no way this is going to be more than 28 million. Mm-hmm. So right now, when it originally was 28 million, the final number, the estimate, because we still have to go out to bid, but the estimate number is $13.8 million. So you're down from 20 to about $14 million on top of that. And on top of that, we also saved an additional $1 million on the design contract. Hazen and Sawyer was, they were contract to do the design for $2.6 million. Don't quote me on that, but it was in the $2.5 to $3 million range. And Delaware Engineering will be doing it for $1 million. So we saved $1 million there as well. So now they are in the process. They're going to design the actual plant. And then what we'll do is then we put it out to bid, and then we'll get bidders that will bid on the project, and then we'll have a real idea of how much this project is going to be. But you're talking a significant
And what's
amount
the
of
projected
savings.
date of starting the project? Do you have a date?
We don't have a date yet, but it's going to be in the near future.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have an actual date yet.
Speaking of projected dates and connect with Kearns, the most recent subject matter is Swan Cove. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Swan Cove, Swan Cove is a very unique project, I feel like, that everybody talks about, rightfully so. It was a very controversial project. Before my time, that property was purchased. And I feel like everybody that I've seen campaign has always campaigned on, I'm getting Swan Cove done, I'm getting Swan Cove done, I'm getting Swan Cove done. And then nothing ever happens. So I, back in August, had asked for an update on what was going on with Swan Cove, because there's so much misinformation out there, and everyone always has their own story, and they twist it their way to spin their narrative. And what I've quickly learned in politics is that the story you're hearing has grown like 4 different legs before it's gotten to you. So I wanted to hear it right from the source's mouth, which is Woodard.
Who's that?
Woodard and Kearns. They're the design.
Okay.
They're the design firm that was awarded the project prior to me getting on the town board. And I know that we were dealing with some red tape issues in regards to wetland permits, and there's a publicly traded bank who also is in that conjoined with that property. So I'd asked Mike for an update, and he got me in touch with Swan Cove, and we set up a meeting with Woodard and Kearns. It was the second Thursday in August. We set up a meeting 2:30. And
Now, so you're spearheading this effort?
I have taken it over.
Okay.
Yeah. I've kind of forced my way into it. I'm sure there's going to be, now that I'm running for town supervisor, I'm sure there might be some play to try to get me away from it, but it's too little too late. So that August, we set up a call, and it was myself and the engineers from Woodard and Kearns and our town engineer. And I flat out asked them, I said, what's going on? What do we need to do? We need to get this thing out to bid. It's something that we've been talking about for years before I got on. This year, we put up a project saying that we were going to start construction that never happened. We moved the farmer's market. Like, it looks terrible for the town. What's going on? How do we fix it? And what do we do? And then we sat there. It was myself, the town engineer, and Woodard and Kearns. And they ran through from the start to where we are now, what has happened, where we are, what we need to get done, and pretty much said, this is what we still need to do. So again, back to what I said earlier, my project management skills kicked in. I said, okay, well, what we're going to do now is we're going to meet every Thursday, and we're going to jump on this Teams call, and we're going to have homework. You guys are going to do A, B, C. Rich, you're going to do X, Y, Z. I'll do E, F, G. We're going to reconvene every Thursday until we make real traction on what's going on.
So what's the final, what does it look like, the plans for the final image of Swan?
Yeah, so right now what we're focusing on is it's going to be done in phases.
Okay.
So the first phase is the parking lot. It's going to be regraded. We're going to regrade the parking lot to minimize the flooding.
Okay.
It's not, I don't think you'll ever, I personally don't think you'll ever be able to stop the flooding from happening. But nothing to the extent that you see now. It'll still be usable. It'll be a usable facility. But if you have a bad storm, again, I'm not an engineer, so I can't speak on that. But the plan is right now is we're going to do something called a compaction test. So it's called a soil surcharge. So that soil is compromised. So we have to induce settlement. So what you do is you dump dirt to force rapid settlement so that we could pave the parking lot and not have it buckle. So that's going to be the first step, and then we're going to do the parking lot, and then the grassy area down by the lake, we're going to clean that up. What I would like to see done down there is a splash pad too for kids. There's going to be a fishing pier down there, a kayak launch. People can say what they want, and I know a lot of people weren't happy with the purchase of the property. It's something that I read a lot on Facebook and social media. Is people always have a comment about the property being sold, and at the end of the day, we have the property.
Right. How much did it cost the town?
$1 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much is that property worth? What's the property value?
I don't know. More than $1 million, I would assume. Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head though.
Okay.
But again, we can't kind of.
I know you can't go back. Right?
We can't go back. So it's like I feel like we waste so much time focusing on the negative, right? Yeah. We have the property. We can't get rid of it. We're not doing anything. We might as well make it an asset to our community.
And you can't get rid of it because of what? It's considered wetlands?
Oh, I'm not saying that we couldn't get rid of it, but we've already invested money.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it is prime real estate
right
on the lake.
Right.
And again, if we are able to do it in a fiscally responsible way, and provide our community an asset, right? We don't have lake access onto this in
Yeah,
Mayapack.
which is a shame.
It's the one thing that
to be honest with you.
when I moved here, it was the first thing, my first summer here, I was so confused. I was like, how the heck do I get on this lake? And there, wherever you went, it was all privately owned. Now, growing up in Lake George, there's public beaches, there's public boat launches, there's boat docks you go swimming.
Right.
It was the most bizarre thing that I've ever experienced in my
Right.
life. So for me, I feel like if we can do it the right way, we're now giving the residents an opportunity to experience the lake, right, without having to pay the private taxes of owning property on the lake, right? You know, if we have a launch there for non-motorized vessels like paddle boards and kayaks, you have a fishing pier there, you know, a nice splash pad where families can go hang out, you know, clean up chamber parks, it's conjoined. You hang out and you can walk into town, get ice cream.
Promote business.
Spend money on those small businesses down there, get pizza. I think it could be an asset to our community.
Revitalize the town.
Well, that's desperately needed.
What would you do with revitalizing the town? Do you have anything specifically?
Well, I think our biggest problem with revitalizing our town is our infrastructure. You know, I think that is kind of hindered the town's ability to really
specifically Route 6 sewer.
Correct,
infrastructure?
sewer, water. Yeah, that's really like the main catalyst for that. But on top of that too, it was the years of mismanagement. You know, the lack of a plan. There wasn't a plan. The master plan just got finished. You know, it's something that, again, that I'm happy to say that my colleagues might not agree with me, but I helped push that across the finish line. I want to give shout out to Susan McDonough. She really started that, and you know, she did a lot of legwork, and you know, there was a lot of nights where she was on the phone with the consultants, you know, putting in the legwork to get that done. But that took forever to get done, and the town lacked a plan forever. And for those who don't know, the master plan is really your playbook for your community, your town, what you want to see done. It's your zoning codes. It's what really it shapes the direction of where you want to go as a town. And for so long, it was kind of like the wild, wild west, and everybody kind of just did what they wanted to do. So I think now that we have a master plan in place, we kind of have an idea, where we want to go. Obviously, nothing's perfect, and we have the ability to evolve and amend codes and change things. But right now, I think the problem that we have, and you know, shout out to our neighbors in Yorktown, they do a phenomenal job doing it. They are able to entice big business because they have that infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have two things going against us right now. It's the lack of infrastructure and the New York City DEP watershed.
Right.
They have their thumb on our pulse because they kind of they have
Can
a
I say
say.
dictate?
They are dictators, yes.
Okay. I want to talk about, I mean, we touched a little bit about some of the priorities you would have as town supervisor. We said Route 6 sewer infrastructure,
Yeah.
revitalizing the town.
So with Route 6 sewer, you know, it's one of those things that I feel like, again, it's like one of those, I feel like everybody who runs in this town, it's like every year, every politician has the same exact slogan. They run on the same exact thing. It's infrastructure, sewer, Swan Cove, master plan, something that everyone always does. You know, last year in the election, I know they did like a big hit piece in the paper about, you know, getting the town got sewer. That necessarily wasn't even true. You know, we crossed one hurdle to get it. There's several hurdles that we have to get over to get sewer. The hurdle that we got, which was the New York City Water Board approved sewer. They're on board with us getting the sewer, but we don't have an LOI. We didn't have anything in paper sign off saying that you have a green light to put a shovel in the ground. You're still a while away from that happening. And you know, it's to me, it's very frustrating where, again, as a public servant, your job is not to lead your constituents to believe that something's happening that it's not, just because you get their hopes up, right? You have a lot of these people that have owned businesses here, that have lived here forever, who have been waiting for sewer for so long, and now you get their hopes up, but that's still a long way away. And on top of that, you just have a completely new regime change in New York City. You have a completely new mayor coming in who doesn't have to adhere to anything that the previous administration just agreed to. If he wants to nix that whole deal, he can nix that deal tomorrow. So I think it's really irresponsible for us to spin it like sewer's a done deal, because I don't think it's a done deal.
Okay.
You know, I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be put forth to get that across the finish line. Do I think it's possible? 100%. I think that we are going down the right direction, but I still think you're several years away from having sewer down Route 6, and I think it's irresponsible for us to mislead individuals to think that this is coming next year. It's not. It's not coming next year.
Okay. What about modernization, Stella?
Oh, Stella, yeah, that's a big one. It's something that I was really big behind. When I ran, before I ran, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Town of Carmel's website. It was absolutely atrocious. It was outdated. It was hard to find what you needed. You know, our chief of staff, our confidential assistant, Kevin Kernan, did a phenomenal job. He really took the project on and overhauling our website to make it more user-friendly, accessible for all age demographics, right? Because the town of Carmel has a very wide age demographic. You have young families all the way up to seniors, and you know there's a plethora of knowledge on your website, and sometimes you don't need to go to town hall, right? There's certain things that you can go right on our website now and find and get your answer without having to drive all the way to town hall. Stella is an AI bot that the town of Carmel instituted into our website, where it actually gives you the ability to chat with it so it saves you time. So say for instance you needed a dog permit, you would just type in dog permit and it would bring you directly to the dog permit, so you don't have to search for what you need. Because I feel like it's very important that as a town government we should be able to give our constituents all the resources possible to find what they need. We should give them everything that they need. We shouldn't hide anything from them. We shouldn't make it difficult for them to find information. It should be straightforward, and that's what Stella really does. And our new website is really aimed at making it more accessible and easier.
Speaking of...
And modernization too, another big thing. Sorry, cut me off whenever you want.
No.
But I really think that the town of Carmel in whole, there's a lot more that we can really improve on, and one of those things is our building department. Our building department, we've been very, very, very blessed to have Mike Carmel as our building inspector. You know, he was very instrumental when we were kind of back to the master plan. The master plan had stalled out. We were going back and forth, and we couldn't get it finished. And you know, Mike was very instrumental, and he had a lot to say about the zoning codes and the master plan. And to me, I felt like we were paying this firm all this money to do this, and they're not doing the job. They're not getting it done, and they're leaning on Mike to get the job done. Get rid of them. Fire them. There's no reason to have them finish it. Mike can do it in-house, save us money. He's been here for 20 plus years. He knows everything about this town. Let him do it. And we took the chance, and we did. I was able to convince him to let Mike do it, and Mike got it done in a month. Wow. He finished it. And he is very, very instrumental, but unfortunately Mike is retiring. And, you know, again, back to I am in construction. I deal with a lot of municipalities, a lot of building departments. You know, a lot of towns are light years ahead of us when it comes to technology that they institute in their municipality and their functions, their day-to-day operations. You know, and there's definitely software out there that the town of Carmel I would like to see roll out. One is specifically the building department. There's software out there that you can streamline building permits, right? You don't have to go to town hall. You can submit everything electronically. So it's just faster, more efficient, and it gives you real life updated statuses on your building department or on your building permit. Because, you know, a lot of people have the building department is probably one of our busiest departments in town hall.
It is a lengthy process.
Yeah,
filing for a permit and waiting for the permit to be approved.
Well, they have a lot of work. They have a lot of responsibilities on their plate. And again, I don't want this to be taken that they're on them. They do so much. They're out doing inspections. They're doing permits. Mike and Ed and Joe and Dennis, that entire department is fantastic. But they need help, and I think that there's something so easy as technology. Technology is our friend, right? Technology is evolved into a tool that we should be able to embrace and use. And I feel like maybe in the younger generation, I feel like that's another thing that I can kind of bring to that table, is where there's avenues where we can streamline local government for the end user, which is the constituent, the resident, where it makes their lives easier and it also saves the taxpayers money, right? So you're not hiring more employees. It just makes everything easier.
Accountability. You claim that you'll hold bi-weekly meetings with department heads to review.
Yeah, so that is something that I feel is very, very important. Again, at 30, wow, I'm 33 now.
Give me a break.
33 years old, 30
Give me a break.
At 33 years old, at 33 years old, I feel like I've been very lucky to hold quite a bit of leadership roles so early and so often, like very fast in my life, all the way back to the military. I was a petty officer in the Navy. I was in charge of men. I was a Surf Alpha team leader, so I had guys who were directly underneath me who I would lead into hostile environments. And then right into my civilian career, I've always been in a managerial position. Now I'm an executive director, so I have about 160 guys underneath me right now. And I hold in my job, I hold weekly meetings with project superintendents to kind of track progress, what's going on. It's not a review of them personally, like what they can do better. It's more of what do they need, right? So I feel like right now, the town of Carmel, our town hall, the morale is very low. I feel like we need to do better for our employees because if you take care of the people that work for you, you're going to get the best out of them, and they're going to provide a better service, again, to the resident, right? So I feel like it's not an accountability thing where I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to be meeting with, I'll use Mike as an example, Mike Carmel every 2 weeks to see what he's been doing. That's not the premise. That's not the purpose of those meetings. The purpose of that meeting is, how is your department doing? What do you need? How's this person doing? It gives them the opportunity now to have my undivided attention to explain, listen, we've been doing this for 20 something years. It doesn't work. I would like to see this done, or I need another employee here, or I need this. Like, that's the whole premise behind that. And, this summer, Councilman Lugo and I, we actually did it, unofficially as town councilman. We purchased, we bought lunch for the department heads at town hall, and we sat with them. All of them attended, and we just wanted to hear from them. What is going on here? What are the problems that you see on a daily basis? What can we do to help you? And we solved something really, really big out of that meeting. And it was something that I've always been very, very vocal about within town hall and behind closed doors, is the lack of an HR manager in town hall. I think it is so important that we hire an HR manager. We have a consultant firm that the town has used forever, but quite frankly, I don't feel like it's the same thing. You have somebody up in Albany who's not present in town hall. I don't think anybody in that town has ever physically met that person face to face. Maybe they have. I doubt it. But I think it is so important, not just with the day-to-day stuff, but onboarding an employee, offboarding an employee. People endure things in their personal life. They should have a person that they should be able to go speak to that is not their manager or the town supervisor, or someone that's not going to, that they have to report to. And I think it is something that's very desperately needed, because right now, if we put all the onus on the department heads now, on top of their day-to-day job that they have to do with managing their budget, managing their employees, making sure they're delivering to the taxpayers, now have to act as also HR managers, right? They have to onboard their new employees, offboard their new employees. They have to take care of their benefits, at least help them. So I think it's desperately needed. And when we met that day with them, it was unanimous. They all wanted an HR person.
Have you consulted with neighboring towns on how they operate that? Do they have an HR person?
No, we haven't. So I think I haven't consulted with local towns. Actually, it's a good point. Maybe that's something that we should look into doing. we do have a contract with a firm, but we are looking to hire somebody because I don't think it's someone that you need full time. I don't think it's a full time position at this point. Maybe it's one of those things that we start out as a part time, just especially to help with onboarding, offboarding, benefits, retirement, any personal grievance issues, union issues, because it's different than a civilian. You would need someone who has experience in the public sector because municipal employment is much different than civilian employment.
I just always find it interesting why I asked that question is that a lot of times town councilmen or town supervisors may not know the board members from neighboring towns. Like they don't usually like interact with each other. I just find that very interesting.
Yeah,
like
so,
why you guys don't bounce ideas off of
so
each
you,
other.
it's funny. I actually do know most of the local surrounding elected officials, both on the town and county level. My wife and I are both.
Can I quiz you? No, I'm just kidding.
You can actually.
No.
I'm pretty good. But my wife and I are very, very involved in politics. We attend a lot of fundraisers or charitable events, not just here in Carmel. We go to events in Putnam Valley, Yorktown, Somers, Patterson, pretty much everywhere in the northern Westchester, all the way up to Putnam County border. So I've gotten to know a lot of these individuals on a personal level, which is nice because it gives me that opportunity to pick the phone up and say, hey, Ed Lackerman, for example, love the guy. He's amazing. He's someone I admire. He just is easygoing, just wants to get the job done. But I could pick the phone up and I can call them and then say, hey, we're going through this. Like, have you experienced this before? Like, how did you guys handle this? The HR thing we didn't do because I think we kind of resolved that in house. We all agreed to maybe look for somebody part time. But I think it is important to build those relationships outside of just your surrounding area, because again, it's just another person to bounce ideas off of, and
right.
That person's going through something that you're going through because, I love my wife to death and I'll go on record and saying she's definitely smarter than me. But she's not in the municipal sector of government where she doesn't maybe not understand that.
Maybe she's not privy to all the information.
She's not privy to all the information. That's better.
Okay.
That is better. Yeah, she's not privy to all the information where certain things wouldn't work because of restrictions with local government. So it is very, very beneficial to build those relationships. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of egos involved too, and people. Sometimes there's factions and people want to support this one and that gets in the way. But at the end of the day, I feel like when it comes to operations and running a town, that should be all pushed to the side, and we should all really be able to work together and be able to bounce ideas off one another.
So I did receive some questions from our listeners. So I just want to remind everyone, if when we post an upcoming episode with a guest, feel free to either Facebook message us or email us any questions you might have for that guest. So the first question we received is, during your last campaign, you ran on one of your platforms had been that you would ensure that there would be term limits for the town board members. Is this correct? And do you still agree with this notion?
That is correct, actually. And it wasn't just term limits. It was also health benefits for part-time elected officials. Something I've been very, very vocal about is that, right now the town of Carmel, we have 6 part-time elected officials, 4 members of the board, and then 2 judges. If everybody was to take the family health care, that's $240,000 a year that the taxpayers are paying for a part-time job. I don't know about you, but there's not many part-time jobs in America that you can find that gives you health care. That's a lot of money. I feel like that is not necessary. I feel like that money could be better utilized elsewhere within our community. I'm the only one on the board, I believe, that does not take the healthcare, and also in lieu, because if you don't take the healthcare, you get a stipend, a $3,200 stipend. I don't take neither stipend or healthcare because I feel like that is disservice to the residents. It's a slap in the face, I feel, and I've heard arguments from people where they agree with the healthcare because it's an incentive to get people to serve, because it's a tough job, and again, as much as I don't agree with certain individuals and the way that they operate. Whoever gets up on that dais, in any dais, they're putting their families, they're putting themselves in the spotlight. It's very stressful, so I understand that there's got to be some sort of initiative to attract good candidates, good people who are going to make a significant change. But I feel like there's cheaper opportunities to do so. But that is something I actually made a motion on the floor. This was before Councilman Lugo was on the board. I actually made a motion on the floor to eliminate the health care, and I could not get a second. Not one person could second that motion. And I actually, if you watch back the tape, I reiterate that motion. So I make it known. I said, so I'm not getting a second motion on this. And the supervisor turned to me and said, no, you don't have a second. And they just went on. The health care, or the term limits, I am 100% in favor of term limits. I think that it is something that is definitely overdue. I feel that.
How many terms do you think someone should be limited to?
Terms, I think it should go by years because, we're seeing it right now. Albany is always kind of freaking changing everything. I think it should be years. It should be capped at years. I think town supervisor, you should be only able to do 12 years. I think town board should be, it's a 4-year term now, so I would say 12. I think it should be 12 for both. And I feel like it should be like how the legislator does. It should be not in conjunction with one another. So if you want to serve 12 years on the town board, which would be technically right now 3 terms, you could then go to run for supervisor and run for 3 terms. I feel like at the end of the day, if you can't get done what you need to get done in 12 years, you shouldn't be there. That's how I feel. When I did get elected, I had met with our town attorney several times. I wish I could actually email you. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but I had him draft up a resolution for term limits because it would have to be a referendum. It would have to go on the ballot. But unfortunately, again, I did not have support for that. It's something that's always been pushed back. I think a lot of people run on term limits. I think it's much needed. I think it injects new talent into the arena because I think a lot of people are afraid to step up. Mm-hmm. I think I've seen it firsthand. Even when I ran, I was told to kind of sit down and wait my turn. You see it all over the place, and not everyone's willing to kind of say, "Screw you, I'm running." I think it would eliminate a lot of the fighting that we currently have. Putnam County, we're fortunate to be a very strong Republican community, and when you don't have other opponents to fight, you tend to turn to your neighbors and fight one another because that's your threat, right? That could be the person that's running against you. But if you have those term limits, then there's a ceiling on how long you can go. So that gives you the ability now to mentor and embrace that younger generation to come through. So now you could work together. You would see, actually, I think it'd be unifying more than anything, because now that person isn't just sitting there rotting away. They know that they have an expiration date, and it also makes them more hungry to get something done because they say, all right, well, this is my expiration date. If I don't get it done now, it's not happening. And then you have the young guy that's trying to come up, and now they take them, and then everyone gets along. And then the same thing goes for the younger guys, or who are going to say, like, well, okay, these guys they're going to accept me because their time here is done. They're going to go on to something bigger, better, and then they work together.
Right. I like that perspective.
So I think it's definitely needed. It's something that I would definitely 100% support again. I never had the support for it. Again, this was all before Councilman Lugo was there. I never had support for it. The argument that I've heard quite often from fellow colleagues, elected officials that in positions that don't have term limits, is that why penalize somebody if they're doing a good job?
Okay.
Right? Like if someone is continuously getting elected into office time after time after time, why would you risk now that person not being able to run again and somebody else comes and who doesn't do that great of a job, who opens the door up for someone from the other side to maybe get in, or someone who just doesn't have the experience who doesn't have the ability to lead or to make decisions that are beneficial and they're detrimental. Because like back to what we said in the beginning, I feel like local politics is the fabric of our well-being. It's our community. The decisions that are made at the local level directly impact your wallet. They impact your life. And if you have someone who really isn't effective, you can feel the pain very quickly, right? So I understand both sides of that argument. I never really took that other side into perspective, but I will say now, even hearing both sides, I still am very, 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 very supportive of term limits.
That's a tough one because I can understand both sides of that.
Yeah,
argument.
I get it. It's not black and white, but not many things are. So
Yeah. So we did receive other questions related to renewable energy projects and the conservation of Carmel Mayapack. Forgive me, I mispronounce Mayapack all the time.
I've done several times. It's Mahopac.
So
Donna Macero is going to be very upset at me.
see, I don't know him, so he's
No,
not
her,
gonna-
Donna.
Oh, see, I don't even
Free
know.
House Cafe.
Don't even know. So, how important is the conservation of open space in Carmel Mayapack to you, and what specific actions would you take as town supervisor to protect remaining undeveloped land from overdevelopment?
Yeah, it's a very heavy question. It's a
Yes.
great question. As we touched on earlier, I'm an avid outdoorsman. I spend on my free time I'm very busy, and when I have a little bit of free time, I choose to hike miles into the woods to go hunting, and in sub-freezing temperature. I've camped in negative 40-degree weather for fun. So I am a very, very big supporter of conservation and land management. On the other end, as town supervisor, I would also have a duty and a priority to the town of Carmel to do what's best for the entire community. I feel that we are in need of smart, economic, clean development. I would, again, make sure that we strengthen our relationship with the DEP. I feel like that's something that we currently don't really have a great relationship in regards to being able to work as a partner. I think that the DEP, like I said earlier, has a very big, strong thumb. They have their thumb on our pulse in regards to development around town. I think that if we work together with them in our environmental conservational board, I think they're one of the most important boards that we have. They do a great job of making sure that when a project is going in, it's not detrimental to the local species that we have. There's no endangered species that are going to be affected. We're not just clear cutting trees down. So I feel like my biggest priority would be to make sure that we have individuals on those boards who have the experience and the expertise to really be able to review these projects so that they make sense. But that all goes back to, again, this is kind of all lumped together because I know we've already touched on all this, but that goes back to the master plan.
Right.
That goes back to our zoning code changes. And that goes with us just being able to rely on those individuals to make sure that these projects that are being promoted or proposed aren't detrimental to the environment and detrimental to our community. So it's hard because it's a double-edged sword too, because I also feel that, we live in a state that unfortunately forces state mandates down our throat. And I feel like New York State is big brother. They've tried to take home rule away from us. They've constantly tried to, just push their initiatives down our throat.
So how would you advocate for the residents on a county and state level?
County and state level? Oh, that's a great question. So, I feel like I have built really, really good relationships with all of our local elected officials from the county all the way up through the state. Prime example of actually about this is Swan Cove. Swan Cove, I feel like Swan Cove, when I was talking about earlier how we were meeting every month or every Thursday to get this project out to bid, there was issues that were kind of preventing us from moving forward. One of those issues was they were deeming it a wetland. They were saying that the Swan Cove was now considered a wetland, and we had to get a permit, which would have taken forever. There's a man-made dredge there between Chamber and Swan Cove. There was a plant called Phragmites. Phragmites is an invasive species not native to the state of New York. I actually had, during this process, I had reached out to the Westchester County Parks Commissioner, and I had picked their brain on what they do with Phragmites, because they had told me that they deal with it on a daily basis. And how they handle Phragmites is they actually excavate it and burn it. So the state, they were trying to now say that we could not move forward because it was a wetland because of an invasive species. So I took it upon myself to reach out to Senator Harcum and State Assemblyman Matt Slater. I reached out to them because they are our state representatives. The bill that actually was passed was, I met State Senator Harcum for breakfast actually to see what he could do to get us to pass this hurdle, because this was really what was holding us up. And he explained to me the process and what had happened. Originally, when the bill was originally proposed, it was only supposed to be for 1 million acres of wetland. The DEC took that and ran with it and said 4 million, and they just went around crazy deeming everything wetlands. So that conversation was had. He was going to then take that and have conversations with the DEC on behalf of the town of Carmel to see, what can be said. Because we were so far, at this point we were at 90%. So we were looking to be grandfathered in, right? Because we were ready to go out to bid. So that happened. And then the town attorney, shout out to Greg Fulchetti, he was able to work with the attorney from the DEC and grant that permission to move forward. So that was kind of like the last hurdle. So I'm proud to announce that, we are planning to go out to bid for Swan Cove in February, and we should have everything ready to go out to bid in February. And that was a lot of hard work of us, again, being able to advocate with State Assemblyman Matt Slater, State Senator Harcum, meeting every Thursday with Woodard and Kearns, pushing forward, and really just making sure we could deliver results for the town of Carmel.
What is your stance on battery energy storage systems and large-scale solar projects? And there's a follow-up question to this as well. If elected, do you commit to maintaining the current ban within the town zoning code?
100%. The battery situation was a very dark time for my life. I think for everyone's life. Just a quick story. Let's go down memory lane. So when I first got elected to the town board, the first time I had ever heard about the battery energies facility was the first Wednesday in April. I believe it was I even had the dates, April 3rd. April 3rd, you guys, or the individuals came to the town board and were in an uproar about the battery facility. And I had started to see rumblings on Facebook. But again, I had no idea. I had no idea what this project was about. Nothing about it. And at the time, again, I've been on the board for only 3 months at that time, because it was the first meeting in March. And I was told by my colleagues, don't say anything. We're not letting them talk. It's a pending application in the planning board. We can't perjure ourselves. We'll be liable to a lawsuit. You can't talk. Me being naive.
Was that incorrect? Improper counseling.
So I'm going to get there. So
okay.
I wasn't told this by, we weren't told, I wasn't told that by our town attorney.
Okay.
No, I was told by my colleagues.
Okay.
My colleagues were very quick when I walked in, it was like the first thing they showed. They're here to talk about the battery farm. You can't say anything. Don't say anything. And again, I am now on the board for 3 months. I have no idea. I'm like, okay. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening one by one coming up, and I'm sitting there listening to people be told to shut up, sit down, we can't talk about it. It really did not sit well with me. I didn't know, but again, I was told not to say anything because the town would be sued. So I didn't want anyone to get in trouble. So after that meeting, the first thing I did was I called Greg Fulchetti and I said, are we not allowed to talk about it? What is going on here? Can you please explain to me what can and can't do? He said, no, they can speak. They are allowed to talk. For our town, you have to be a resident.
I was going to ask you that question.
Yeah, so okay. Residents of the town of Carmel, business owners, can get up there and they can speak about whatever the heck they want. You just can't acknowledge or address any of their questions. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, these individuals kept coming up one after one. and they just want to be heard. They knew, I think they deep down, they knew that we couldn't respond. They just wanted to make sure that we heard that they were frustrated.
I think there was a lot of confusion.
There was a lot, and that goes back to mismanagement. There was poor management, poor communication. So I had turned to Greg and I said, listen, why can't they let me? He explained to me that everything goes back to my Connect with Kearns. That following Saturday happened to be when I was having my Connect with Kearns. That it was the 3rd was the Wednesday, and I think it was April 7th was that Saturday. I was having April 8th. I was having my Connect with Kearns event in Cornerstone Park in Carmel in the Hamlet. And I had reached it out, and I knew I had a feeling that those same that they were going to come to this event because again they just wanted to be heard. They wanted to get that. They were scared. They wanted their voices heard. So I knew that they were coming. So I had asked Greg. I said, "I'm having my Connect with Kearns. Am I allowed to let them speak? I want them to speak. I'm a veteran. I fought for the Constitution of the United States of America. I believe in the First Amendment right, freedom of speech. I don't agree with silencing people ever, even if it's not popular and it doesn't. Even if someone wants to go up there and tell me I'm ugly, I smell, that's their prerogative. They have every right to do so. So I told them flat out, if I let them speak, will I get in trouble? And he said, no, you can let them speak. Just do not comment on your stance, like if you're for it or against it, just let them speak and just reiterate to them, you can't comment on pending applications. So I did. I had my event at Cornerstone Park, and a significant amount of people came to that event. Shout out to Roland. Roland was there, my friend Roland. There was a lot of people that came to that meeting. And again, I made it very clear right off the bat, listen, I understand what you guys are going through. I can't tell you where I stand but I am going to give you the right to stand up and speak. And I think there was about 45, 50 people in that room. And I let them one by one ask questions. And again, when they asked me a question, it was just very simple. I'm sorry, I understand, but I can't comment on that because it's a pending application. That's all that needed to be said that day on April 3rd. If that would have been done on April 3rd, I feel like there would have been a lot less aggravation for everybody. So that following Wednesday, I came back in, and because prior to the meeting, and it was the same song and dance. We're not going to let them talk. We're going to silence them. We're silencing them. And, a lot of people don't know this, but I made it very clear back there when I went out there. I said, you can do that, but I am going to make my own statement saying that I don't agree with that. I let them spoke on Saturday, but I feel like they have the right to come up to that podium and say whatever they want to say. We can't address it. All you have to say is thank you. And that was the first time they allowed everyone to come up and speak on behalf of the project. I feel like I have gotten kind of dragged through the mud a little bit in regards to that project. It was unfortunate because I knew nothing about this. This project is not new. It was introduced back in 2022, way before I was even on that board. And
somehow the community was not aware of this project.
And I feel like that's a big problem, and that's why I've always been a little confused, because I feel like I've always, in regards to that battle, I've always feel like I was kind of somewhat blamed for, not blamed, but I've always felt like I've been
associated,
targeted. It's hard for me not to believe that because they were sharing photos of my family. It was being shared on social media, calling me the anti-American dream. People were attacking me, saying that and I'm going to be honest. Listen, I feel like honesty is the best policy. In the beginning, I didn't know enough about the battery facility. In the beginning, I heard a huge tax incentive to the town of Carmel. That's all I had heard.
From the company.
From the company and from the town, just from the town and mostly the company who was in charge of the project. That it would be a large
East Point Energy.
Yeah. That it would be a large tax incentive for the town.
Of course they're going to say that.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
So I'll never forget it. So at the time, in the beginning, I had an open mind. I wasn't in the beginning, because I feel like back with the water plant, I want to hear all sides of the story. And at the beginning, I wasn't hearing the health implications or the property. I didn't hear all that. I just heard a tax incentive for the community. Right now, our largest taxpayer, I believe, is the town. Is it's nowhere near what this was projected to bring in means of revenue.
And since then, the town of Warwick has had 2 best fires.
Yeah.
And I believe they've detected, maybe not reporting on the findings of hydrogen cyanide.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I mean, really.
So I'll never forget it. So they actually came and because I was the new board member, so they wanted to pitch me, or not pitch me, but they want to explain to me the project and the tax incentives, and that it was water, hydrogen, and whatever. And I never forget, it was me, it was the fire department, and then from there we actually went to the 2A club, the Putnam County Firearms Association, and Roland was actually in that meeting. And I sat there and I didn't say a word because, again, of who I was. I just sat there, and they did their little slideshow, and they explained and they compared it to, like, if, God forbid, like a hardware store was to go on fire. And then at the end of their thing, they said that they were going to be asking for a pilot, which, for those of you who don't know, it's a tax incentive, a tax break for a certain amount of years, so that they can be a profitable company. And Roland can attest to this. I got up in front of everybody and I ripped them to shreds. How dare you? You're a multi-billion-dollar company coming into a community filled with blue-collar workers who are barely making ends meet, and you're going to ask for a tax break? How dare you? How do you think that you deserve a tax break? And from there on, obviously we found out more about that project, and it was just, obviously I voted no against it in the ban. But yeah, I feel like I got kind of a lot of flack for it, and I've always been kind of confused because there's members on that board now that have been there when that project was proposed, and no one ever said anything. And there's been individuals that fought against the battery energy storage facility, and they foiled those emails. I mean, there's emails going back to 2022 with these individuals. They were meeting to alter zoning codes to allow it. I mean, they were giving them the green light to move forward. So there was an opportunity for them to cut this project at its heels in 2022, and they said, "Go ahead, move forward." So to me, I always found like it was so weird that I was always the one that felt like that I was always kind of at the one that, oh, he's for it, let's attack him. I just keep it more an open mind, where it's like I want to hear all sides of the story. And I voted against it. I voted against the moratorium. I mean, I voted in favor of the moratorium. I voted in favor of the zoning codes because I do believe that it doesn't belong here. And it's not just for battery energy facilities. It's also for solar farms. Right. It's for wind. I don't believe that is a necessity for the town of Carmel. I don't. I feel like I feel like there is better, cleaner investments, and I'm not the only one, I feel like, that who caught kind of shrapnel for that. I feel like others were also targeted, and it's one of those projects I feel like that everyone will always remember. I think it was tough for a lot of people, and I feel like it was very contentious. Yeah. But I also feel like it brought a lot of people together too. I feel like
a lot of people have connected over it.
100%. And and I feel like it also showcased how important it is to make sure that your voices are heard, and to kind of work as a team, a community, because at the end of the day, we had individuals from Somers coming, teaming up with members of Mahopac to really advocate for an issue that was so near and dear to them. Yeah. But again, I've the battery thing, and I'm being honest with you. In the beginning, I didn't know where I stood on it. I didn't, because I didn't know enough about it. Yeah. And I heard two people telling me two different things. Right. I heard the individuals who live near, obviously they're going to be concerned. And then I had another company tell me, this is safe. It's a great thing. Right. And then, like what everybody should always do, you do your own research, and you come up with your own decision. And, it was very, very adamant to me, that I was very much so against it.
Right. I think we landed on the right side of history. So during my last interview, I had Gina Arena on the show, and we spoke about the proposal of a new development of, I don't know the exact number. She claimed 73. It might be 73 homes in Somers, which would be on Mayapack Ave. The traffic, as we've discussed off the air, is that on Route 6 is already a nightmare. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, it's very interesting. That area is super congested already. The town of Carmel. We had in the past. There was projects proposed at where the Mayapack Farm is now, and that was shot down because people were upset about traffic and the disturbance to their daily lives. But we've sat here and we've seen Somers continuously develop on our border and reap the benefits of economic development, commercial development. They reap all the action or all the benefits of the commercial development, residential development now too. But then the town of Mayapack and Carmel, we're stuck with the headache of the traffic. I find it a little bizarre that we're neighbors. We should be working with one another. If something is on the border, we should be informed of what's going on. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm for or against it. Do I think that it's needed? I don't. But again, I'm not an elected official in the town of Somers. I don't know their inner workings. Right. I don't know if it is needed for them. I just know that I hear a lot from my constituents that it's very frustrating that Somers does nothing but develop on our border and we deal with the traffic. And you go over there, especially around 3:00. It's like you're in Times Square. I think that there should be a process where we communicate better with one another to let us know what's going on. Because when the battery issue was going on, there was a lot of comments made. They were involved in the process of how they felt in regards to that facility. Rightfully so. That was going to impact their constituents who lived on the border of the proposed plan. But I think that, you can't be vocal about a project going on in the town of Carmel and did not expect the town of Carmel to be vocal about a project going on in Somers that's going to impact the residents of Mayapack and Carmel. So I don't really know that much about it because I just found out about it literally last Friday. I'm very grateful to have a great relationship with newly elected.
You should have watched my episode.
I did watch it. I don't know how I missed that. Maybe I missed that question because my kids were screaming in the back. But I got an email on Friday from the town clerk about a notice, and I read it, and I was a little confused. So I had spoken. I'm grateful to have a good relationship with newly elected Councilwoman Gina Arena. I spoke to her, and she kind of filled me in on what was going on. And it's just, again, I think it's affordable housing that's going to be placed on the border of the town of Carmel, and I'm not really sure if I'm okay with that. So, but everyone is entitled to due process, and they have their procedures, and I'm sure there'll be a planning board public hearing, and if I think my job as a councilman it would be if I was the town supervisor is to inform the residents of Carmel and Mayapack of this proposed project to get the word out, because especially individuals who live in that area who are already burdened with the increased load of their traffic, this is going to impact their daily lives. It's going to be a problem for them. Right. So I think that those individuals who live in that area, they should know about it, and then it's their prerogative if they want to fight it and they want to show up. They have their right to attend those planning board meetings, speak at the public comment. But if the town of Somers feels that it's a necessity and that is their constitutional right to rule on that. It's in their jurisdiction. So right. I'm not saying I'm not really crazy about it, but I'll be watching it closely for sure.
Right. And people, maybe this whole area appeals to people because it's less congested than maybe down county.
Yeah.
So that is kind of removing that element, right? That might have attracted certain people to live up here.
Yeah, I think I don't think. Yeah, I guess I get what you're saying.
The congestion,
they say where this is where the country meets the where this is where the road meets the country.
something like that.
I've heard that
Yeah.
saying.
It's becoming less country, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and I mean and that's something that the town of Carmel we have a challenge on our hands because I think you hit it perfectly. And I said it earlier at the beginning of this interview. One of the main reasons that I chose to raise my family here in the town of Carmel is because of its quaint country feeling. I was raised in the Adirondacks. I love that charm. I love that small town feel. This is by no means a small town. It's a very large town. Carmel is the largest town in Putnam County, and we've had after COVID, we saw a huge increase of individual young families moving in to raise their kids, moving up from the Bronx, moving up from Yonkers, New York City. So we've seen that boom of population here. I don't think that will ever be that small quaint village that a lot of like my friends and neighbors that have lived here their entire lives are accustomed to. But with that being said, there's no reason why we should be the town of Yonkers or even Mount Kisco. I don't think we should ever drive to be.
We should try to preserve the charm.
We should preserve what we have here and figure out how we can promote what we have going on here. There's a reason why we all moved here, right? I wasn't born and raised here. I moved here because everything checked the boxes for me.
Right.
It was a safe community. It had small quaint village. It was a small quaint town. It had charm. It had core values that aligned with my ideologies. I love it here, right? It checked every single box. I hate to see now that we have an influx of everyone coming in trying to change it in its dynamic and its fabric. It's perfect the way it is. Let's keep it the way it is. Let's just improve it. Right. I'm not saying we need to hit the reset button, but there's things that we can maybe improve.
Yeah.
But one thing that I will be very clear, I will never, if I have any say in it, I will never let it get to be like a Yonkers or a Mount Kisco. I feel that I love the small town charm. I grew up in a town that had 5,000 people. My high school class had 51 kids in it. I'm not into the big hustle and bustle of the traffic jams. I get mad now when I go to McDonald's and go to just from McDonald's to my house where I live near Lakeview. Sometimes it takes me 30 minutes to get through town, and a lot of that has to do with I feel like there's too much going on at that border, and I think that we could do better planning. And that goes back to the town. Like right now, I feel like the town of Carmel is very reactionary. That's just a big initiative of mine. If I was to get elected, I feel like we're always reacting to issues. We're always reacting to mandates. Sometimes those mandates are unforeseen and you can't really plan for them. One is like the lead. We have to do a survey for lead pipes. There's nothing you could really do to plan for that. Like those things are going to happen. You have contingency funds that are going to cover those, but you usually know the life cycle of water treatment plants. The life cycle of sewer plants. The roads. The whole kit and caboodle. Something that I really want to institute if elected is a capital plan, right? A plan for the future. So Carmel Water 2 is a very, very prime example of that. You knew the end of life was coming, right? And nothing was done to kind of lessen that burden on the Water 2 residents. So let's say, for instance, end of your life is 20 years, right? You get a plant brand new, and I'm not saying that it might be more, but if you have a plant that's going to last 20 years, really, you should start planning year one for that overhaul of that plant.
Right.
Anticipate. You know it's coming.
Right.
Why wouldn't you gradually increase the rates, put it in an interest-bearing account, so then when it comes time to do a capital improvement overhaul, you have either have the funds for the project, or when it's time to go out and get the funds, it's a very minimal cost, right? But what we do now, something breaks, it's like, all right, now we got to spend $28 million and we got to redo it. And as a taxpayer, you hear that, you're like, what the heck? What are you doing? There's no planning. Every town government, I feel like the most important thing is planning. And I feel like my background as a project manager and operations manager fits that mold. I think that, I'm a very, very, very pro law enforcement veteran. I feel like my skill set and the current supervisor skill sets are completely different. I feel like my skill set aligns more with the actual operations of running government and running town. So I think that I know I kind of went on a rant.
Yeah, we were talking about the. Do we have time? You might hold the record now, but I think you wanted to discuss maybe really quick about the development of storage facilities, them popping up, and Mayapack Farms. Do you want to talk about that very briefly?
Yeah, I want to talk about that. That's very important to me. I want to talk about the field farm.
Oh, tell me about the storage facilities. Yeah.
Last month I proposed a moratorium to stop the self-storage facilities within the town of Carmel. We've seen them pop up. We've seen them pop up around town. The one that we've all seen is the massive one over at the Mayapack Farms.
Right.
I know when that project went through, again, this is back to my Connect with Kearns event, it was very apparent that the residents are not happy with it. That's not something that they wanted to see. They feel like it's a waste of resources. Now, it's a very tricky double-edged sword because, landlords have rights or property owners have rights. And if it's permitted by code, those landowners really have the ability to do what they want, right? They pay taxes on that property, and if they have something that is permitted, they have every right to do that project. Even though we all don't agree with it, but unfortunately that's how that goes. And I saw that people very upset about it, and I started looking into it, and I said, these self-storage, why the heck do we have so many self-storage facilities in the town of Carmel? And it's kind of like a double-edged sword because the lack of infrastructure, right? We don't have sewer, we don't have water. The footprint that they really need is very minimal, right? They don't need all those, they don't need there's not a giant demand of water. There isn't a giant demand of sewer because they're pretty much locker rooms, right? Yeah. They're garages that people put their stuff in. And we have several already down Route 6. Now we have the Taj Mahal of self-storage facilities at the Mayapack Farms, and there's another pending application in Mahopac. So I didn't want them to continue to keep popping up. So I had proposed a moratorium at our town board meeting. It was the last month, I believe it was. And we passed it. But that plan was just to stop so no more applications could be submitted. Obviously, that does not include the pending application that is going through its due process in the planning board. They're subject to their own review. If they meet all the codes, that's on them.
And where is that one pending? What's
it's on
the location?
Bucks Hollow Road. Yeah, good location. But again, I think that there should be. We're good. Like after this project, what happens? We shouldn't need any more of these.
Yeah.
So the moratorium really is to give us the time so we can amend the local code to flat out prohibit them. Because I feel like, again, I don't want to blame landowners because these individuals now have had we were just discussing offline, individuals own this land and they've tried everything in their sun to develop or bring something that would have been beneficial to the community. I know, we said there was a proposal to do like a little strip mall up there with like restaurants and bars, and people, they shot it down because of the traffic. And then, quite frankly, I think there was a project before the battery, the best facility was proposed back in the day. They were trying to do a recreation dome back there, and that got busted down. So it's one of those things where I feel like it's a double-edged sword where everyone's kind of frustrated because you have people who own property, pay high taxes, and want to invest in our community and give back and make it something that we all can be proud
of.
So
what would be the answer for that?
For what?
What would be the most beneficial project? What do you think?
For where?
For that instead of a storage facility, what would you propose?
So right now there's a proposal for the farm to Fable Farm. Yeah. I love that idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. I've been following their journey a little bit on social media. They have a big following. I think they've had other locations before Austin,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's very, very, very popular. I think it's a great idea. It's conservation of the land. I think it would be a great opportunity to, for kids to go see the farm animals, eat there with your family, give back. I do think it's a great opportunity for the town of Carmel. Unfortunately, I know the town board, we've had a lot of individuals reach out to us in support of it, but it's a privately owned entity. Like we can't really get involved. Yeah, we can't get involved.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. I think it'd be a great idea, but at the end of the day, that landowner has the right to do whatever they want. But I do not want any more storage facilities in the town of Carmel, and that's something that I'm very adamant about. I do not want them.
They're atrocious, kind of like
Just
an
a wait.
eyesore.
I think it's a wait.
And
To me, I think it's I think we can do better, and I think if we're going to promote development, my fear is that if we don't do something now about it, that everyone now out of spite is just going to start putting up self-storage facilities. And then because the sewer's coming, it's coming. I know everyone keeps saying that, but we're going to get it done. It might be 2 years from now, 5 years, but my fear is that everyone before me, all the work they've done to get it, me, the administration, my colleagues, all the work that all of us have done to finally get that sewer. My fear is when we finally get it now, we're not going to have the ability to develop because everyone's going to put these self-storage facilities everywhere, and it's going to limit what we can really do. So I think I feel like we're maxed out. That's why, but there's due process, right? We're going to have a public hearing. People feel like we need them. They'll come and they speak. And if there's overwhelming support for self-storage facilities, we'll have self-storage facilities. So I'm 100% in favor of stopping them after this one that goes through its process. After that process is done, I don't want any more in the town of Carmel.
do I dare say, before we conclude this episode, is there anything else you'd like to discuss?
I love to talk. I told you that.
Brett Yaris had the record. I think you might have beat him tonight.
Wow, it's impressive.
It is. So, do you have any forever hold your peace?
If you're going to give me the opportunity, I'm going to take it.
Do I have any more battery life on my cameras? That's the question.
That's not nice. I'm just kidding. No, I want to thank you for inviting me onto the show. It was great to sit down and chat.
Very informative.
Thank you. At the end of the day, my mission is very clear. I want to continue to show up for the people that I was elected to serve, regardless if you like me, if you are in favor of my style of leadership. I have a duty, and my duty is very clear to serve each and every one of you. I will continue to be the most accessible elected official I feel in the town, in Putnam County. My phone is always open. It's always available. I'm always here to help everybody. I have a lot of support already behind me to start this campaign. I've already got a lot of the local union leaderships have already gotten behind me and endorsed me. I have a lot of the local first responders, the veterans. They've seen my passion. They witnessed my passion firsthand. I hope they have. I show up for everything. I don't just show up during election cycles. I'm always there. Sometimes I'm the only one there, quite frankly, on behalf of the town. I always show up, and I will always continue to show up. My heart is in it. It's the reason why I ran. I feel like right now that, unfortunately, the person there's heart's not there. Prime example is, a month before his own election, he was trying to run to become sheriff. That told me everything I needed to know. And I really do feel that I have the leadership experience to deliver real results. I feel like I've already shown that. And I look forward to getting out and campaigning, knocking doors, hearing from firsthand from the people that I'm elected to serve, more so than I already do now. I'll continue doing my Connect with Kearns events. I'm going to have a website posted. If anyone's interested in volunteering to help campaign, you can reach out to me via Facebook or my email, which is listed on the town website. But I look forward to gaining each and every one's support for town supervisor. And if anyone ever has any questions, you could feel free to contact me at any time.
There you have it, folks. Robert Kearns. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the podcast Beyond the Ballot. Like, subscribe, and leave us your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.